It's that time of year again, where you check all the games on sale, look at your backlog, and wonder which of these games am I going to buy? So, in today's video, I'm going to go over 15 timeless games that you can usually pick up for pretty darn cheap. A lot of these are going to be under $10, and some of them I've seen as low as $1. And since most of them have already withstood the test of time, doesn't matter if they're sitting in your backlog for a year, or if you're seeing this video far in the future. With that said, let's get right into it. Starting with number 15, Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor, released in 2014 by Monolith Productions. If you've ever heard of the Nemesis system, this is the game that made it famous. Franchise games have had a pretty long and pretty mixed history, and so I remember being skeptical when I first played Shadow of Mordor, but very quickly I was so hooked that I ended up 100%ing it, and that is in large part thanks to the Nemesis system. As you defeat orcs in combat, they remember the way in which you defeated them and hold a grudge, often adapting their fighting style to counter what you last used. In addition, you weren't just here to kill orcs in Sauron's army, you could also take control of them, turning them into minions, then at the right moment triggering them to start an uprising. Not only did this cause chaos, but it gave you plenty of opportunity to swoop in and assassinate your target. Plus, the Wraith form combat was just really cool. Shadow of Mordor gives me some of those immersive sim vibes that I love, where I feel like I'm shaping the world around me with my actions, and also some damn solid hack and slash combat. Now at number 14, we have Portal, also Portal 2. This is Steam's 2007 masterpiece, a puzzle game with a very simple premise. You have an entrance portal and an exit portal, and you need to use these to do science for the rather sinister megacorporation in hopes of earning yourself some cake. No, not that kind. The reason the game earned its spot on this list is its puzzle design. The jump into an entrance portal, come out of an exit portal is simple enough, but at first you think the toolkit is really limiting. But when you combine it with things like momentum, say jumping off of a cliff into an entrance portal so that you can shoot yourself up to a platform that you wouldn't otherwise be able to reach, well, then you're thinking with portals and things get pretty complex. Plus, the game keeps things light with some very nice quirky dialogue throughout. Portal 1 and 2 remain great puzzle games. I enjoyed them even though I don't typically like the puzzle genre. Also, if this is more up your alley, Portal 2 supports co-op, and there's even a Portal VR, though for me personally that just sounds like motion sickness hell. Next up we have number 13, Okami HD, a remaster of Clover Studios' 2006 masterpiece. I first played Okami on the Wii, and while the motion controls were a little bit finicky, definitely took some getting used to, especially the drawing characters and fishing, it's also what makes Okami so unique. Yeah, that's right, move over from software, there's another wolf with a sword game. In this case, you are playing as Amaterasu. She needs to solve problems for local residents and defeat demons to literally bring the life back to Japan. But instead of just hitting a button to attack, sometimes you would literally draw your attacks on screen, unleashing a special move by literally slashing across an enemy's character. The graphics are beautiful. I felt like I was playing a woodblock print instead of a video game, and that aspect still holds up perfectly today. The storytelling bounces between absolutely goofy and a bit more serious in a charming way that reminds me a lot of old Nintendo titles, and Capcom did a solid job with the HD edition. From my experience, it runs very well. And it's very clear that the game's creator, Hideki Kamiya, has a soft spot in his heart for the game, because he's now founded a new studio to work on Okami 2, and I can tell you right now, I'm gonna be there day one to play it when it comes out. So if that looks interesting to you, then get subscribed and stay tuned for future updates. Next up we have Ori and the Blind Forest Definitive Edition. This is the masterpiece of Moon Studios, which originally released in 2015, and to this day it remains one of the best Metroidvanias that I've played. And for me, the best part is the movement. Whether it's jumping through a few platforms, or using some of the more advanced tools to literally fly across locations without ever touching the ground, it's the sort of game that makes me feel like I'm great at platformers, even though in reality I'm actually not. On top of this, the game's art style is absolutely beautiful, it's bright, vibrant, and it doesn't look like it's aged a single day. The story reminds me of a lot of Hayao Miyazaki's works, and in some cases is equally heart-wrenching, and the music fits everything perfectly. Plus, unlike most games that have standard boss encounters, Ori and the Blind Forest does something a little different. See, it doesn't have boss battles, instead it has platforming challenges, which puts all of the game's awesome movement front and center. If you've already played Ori and the Blind Forest, I recommend the other titles from Moon Studio, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, a direct sequel featuring the same character, and No Rest for the Wicked, a hybrid Souls-like ARPG with a lot of the same world-building and storytelling elements. Next up, number 11, we have Grim Dawn, Crate Entertainment's spiritual successor to Titan Quest that originally released in 2016. This is made by the same people who made Titan Quest, and it sets itself apart from many of the other ARPGs of the time by giving you a single big map to explore. This way, it feels like you're part of a world rather than going through a bunch of instances and getting caught up in killing monsters. There's a much bigger focus on the role-playing aspect over the action aspect. Don't get me wrong, there are plenty of monsters to kill, plenty of factions to grind rep for, and plenty of rare items to farm through the monster infrequent system. But there's also a lot more of a story here, and not just a main story, but side quests that you can experience as well. In addition, the game has received excellent support, both in the form of DLCs and free quality of life updates, refining and modernizing systems, such as adding a dodge roll. This includes the Fangs of Astrakarn DLC releasing in 2026, 7 years after the prior DLC. That's right, this game might be quite old, but it is far from forgotten. The developers care deeply, as does the community, which continues to keep it alive in the form of mods and seasonal content. So if you like a seasonal ARPG but want something a little bit more old school, you can pick Grim Dawn up, and you can check out my review if you want to learn more. Next up, number 10, Doom 2016. Now, Doom is one of the most iconic video games ever released. Ever since 1993, people have been putting Doom on pretty much anything and everything. Seriously, just Google, "can you run Doom on?" and pick an object that happens to be nearby. And Doom 2016 opts to drop you right into the action instead of wasting your time with story and dialogue. You're here to rip and tear. In some senses, it almost felt like a half-shooter, half-melee combat game, as you're incentivized to get up close and personal with enemies to execute the glory kills and turn them into piles of ammunition. Plus, I found the guns to be varied enough that I could use what I wanted, and forgiving enough that I didn't have to be pixel precise when clicking on heads. All told, I'm really glad that I picked up Doom 2016 when I bought it. It was like $1. Generally speaking, though, it goes on sale for a bit under $5, so it's a really great deal. But more on the existential side, we have number 9, NieR Automata, the 2017 game put out by Square Enix and Platinum under Yoko Taro. At this point, I'm pretty sure a lot of people discovered NieR Automata just because of 2B's self-destruct. That certainly seems to be what has inspired the NieR-like Stellar Blade, but there's way more to the game than just 2B. This is part spectacle fighter, part bullet hell, and a really damn solid existential RPG. So, you're gonna look stylish as hell as you are carving through enemies. And while some of the boss patterns might look impossible to dodge, don't worry, in most cases, your little drone buddy is everything you need to shoot your way through their attacks. But what attracted me to NieR Automata wasn't all the flash and style. It's that this is one of the few games where New Game Plus really matters, because the game has several different endings, and you end up learning quite a bit as they unfold. Let's just say you're going to want to beat this game a couple times, or at the very least, look up some endings on YouTube after you clear it the first time around. In number 8, we have Dishonored, the 2012 masterpiece from Arcane Studios. Now visually, it has aged a bit. They don't make them like they used to. Or when it comes to immersive sims, they don't really make them, period. Something that always attracted me to the genre is the play how you want approach, and Dishonored certainly supports this. On one playthrough, I could be sneaking around stealth assassin, taking out my target with surgical precision to the point where the guards don't even know what happened. Another playthrough, I could go full chaos. Corvo is out for revenge, and he has the outsider's help to get it. So forget sneaking around and stabbing people. Instead, I'm going to stop time, take out some guards, and then summon an army of rats to hide the evidence. Last but not least, there's the true stealth approach, where you don't even have to kill anyone, especially if no one detects you. If you like immersive sims, I can also easily recommend the BioShock games and the System Shock Remaster. There's also Thief and Deus Ex, but personally I find those to be a little more hit or miss, where I like some of the games but not all of them. Then at number 7 we have Civilization 5. That's right, I'm going with the 2010 version instead of the more recent Civilization 6. That's because when it comes to Civilization, I'm old school. I started with Civ 2, and Civ 5 feels like the most polished and refined version of that experience. With Civ 6 and Civ 7, they've been expanding out and doing more things, which is also great. I like the district system in the newer games, and I didn't even hate the Ages. But if I think, what is the Civilization game that I spent the most time with, and that really reminds me of the Civilization that I remember nostalgically, it's gotta be Civ 5. Next up, at number 6, we have the 2011 game of Terraria. And this is the first survival game that I encountered which really focused on the exploration and RPG elements. Before that, I'd played a lot of the grindier, often PvP-focused games, and I found they weren't really for me. I had very little desire to wake up just to learn that someone had raided my base, and I didn't want to have to get 8,000 berries or whatever just to tame one T-Rex. But Terraria was different, because there was a whole world to explore, and it felt a little bit like an old Zelda game. I'd go around collecting NPCs, and eventually getting enough resources to summon bosses, and then promptly get wrecked because the game's actually fairly difficult. But hey, if I explored enough, I might find an OP sword in a chest, and then I could actually take on the boss. The game has aged extremely well, in no small part thanks to the fact that the devs have continually supported it. I suspect much like Create Entertainment and Grim Dawn, even when they say this is our last patch, they could add one more because they love the game just as much as players. Next up at number 5, Subnautica. The game released in 2018 that honestly looks pretty much like it could have come out yesterday. This is another game that looks just realistic enough that you feel like its graphics are very modern, but is just stylized enough, and is especially stylish with the way corals and creatures glow at night, but it really could have been made any time within the last 10 years. And yes, I did put 2 survival games back to back on this list. But much like Terraria, Subnautica focuses heavily on the exploration, and if anything, it's closer to a horror game than a survival game, especially if you get too close to a ghost leviathan. You're in a vast alien ocean, you need to survive. Yes, that means getting food and water, but more importantly, it means learning about the ecosystem. Because the creatures in Subnautica do not feel like video game enemies. They don't simply have a threat radius where they lock onto you and then instantly try to kill you. Also, your options to fight back against them, much like in a survival horror title, are extremely limited. So instead, you need to learn their behaviors, what they like, what they tolerate, and what they dislike, so that you don't get chomped. Next up at number 4, the 2017 game from Larian, Divinity Original Sin 2. That's right, I'm going with Divinity 2 here rather than the more well-known Baldur's Gate 3. 1, because you probably already have Baldur's Gate 3, but 2, because Divinity 2 is an excellent game in its own right, and it has a really unique combat system where you can empower a lot of your abilities by creating elemental surfaces. And if you're missing your Shadowheart or Astarion, well, don't worry. Divinity 2 has its own lovable asshole in the form of a red prince. And so, if you like your CRPGs, I highly recommend this one. Then at number 3, Hades, the 2020 game from Supergiant, and also the game that revolutionized the modern roguelike. Now, first of all, Hades has super stylish combat, honestly up there with most spectacle fighters. The combat looks so flashy thanks in part to the fact that all of the dangerous bits of the enemies have this bright purple edge, so you know where their attacks are going to come from and allowing for some crazy sequences. But the real reason the game is so special, both for me and many other people, isn't the combat. Combat's great, don't get me wrong, but what really drew me in was the story. Supergiant has always done a good job with its character writing, but in Hades they really take it to the next level, focusing in on making everyone as likable as possible, even the characters, like Hades, who you might not like when you first meet them. I'm not going to say too much more. Beyond, I absolutely recommend Hades. It's one of the best roguelikes I've ever played. But at number 2, one of the best RPGs I've ever played, the 2025 Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Yes, I know, it might be a little bit of a hot take to put a 2025 game on a list of games that are timeless, but this is going to age like the finest of wines. And there's a couple reasons for this. The first is that this soundtrack is impeccable. The game's been out for a year now, I'm still listening to it, and I'm sure 10 years from now I'm going to be listening to it even more. Second of all, the characters are really good here as well. See, video game villains are often poorly written, because they're the bad guys, so they need to do evil things constantly to prove their evilness. And good guys are, well, unfortunately often quite shallow, because you need a way to connect to the main character, even if you're jumping in after having put the game down 4 months ago. Instead, Expedition 33 presents its flawed characters. You could argue there are some villains, you could argue there are some heroes, but in most cases, there's just flawed humans. And this is some of the most human storytelling that I've ever experienced in a video game.
That's for your, if there's room.
There's always room.
You know, I'm
Unless you-
sorry that... I
You
miss
don't
you
need
too.
to. Okay.
You go.
No, you.
You know how I feel. I wish things had been... You know, I often think... Another path, you know, another future.
Still can't finish your sentences, can you?
Yep, that hasn't changed.
Plus, this is the game that made turn-based combat cool again. You know, if you forget about titles like Sea of Stars, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Baldur's Gate 3, and all the other cool turn-based combat games. In this case, there's two things I want to highlight. The first is the unique character builds. Lune, for example, fills the role of a traditional mage. Mael swaps between stances in a way that reminds me of the Watcher from Slay the Spire. And Lune has tarot card-themed abilities. All of this is already cool. What really takes it to the next level is the active dodge and parry. Your attacks are turn-based, with quick-time events when you execute them, but enemy attacks occur in real time, and you have to reactively dodge, parry, or counter. And so I found combat in Expedition 33 to be far more engaging. Plus, it also means that I could take on enemies that I had absolutely no right to. They outstatted me, but as long as I dodged and parried everything, they couldn't damage me, so I would win. All in all, I can't recommend this one enough. Pick it up on sale. Hell, pick it up even if it's not on sale. Now, before getting to the last game on the list, I want to go through a bonus round, a few things that are either rarely on sale or I personally haven't played, starting with the game that I picked up from my backlog, Red Dead Redemption 2. I've heard it's really good and also one of the most ambitious open worlds since The Witcher 3, so I'm looking forward to it. Then there's The Outer Wilds. I'm not going to tell you anything about this one because if I did, Outer Wilds fans would kill me. And you know what? They'd be right to do so. Then there's From Software's games. I love them. Dark Souls 3, best Souls-like I've played. Or I guess I should say best Souls game I've played since it's not really copying itself. Then you want to take that to an open world? Play Elden Ring. You'd rather parry everything? Feels more like a fast-paced action game? Check out Sekiro. Want to play a mech shooter with a really good sci-fi story? Almost up there near Automata? Check out Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon. The only downside, they rarely go on sale. Next up, there's Hollow Knight, the indie Metroidvania Souls-like that puts Souls-like mechanics into your favorite Metroidvania. It's really good, 100% up my alley, and I don't know why I haven't played it yet. Gonna rectify that soon, though. Then there's Stardew Valley, the spiritual successor to Harvest Moon. Much like Terraria, this is an older game, but it's got a ton of support. If you like cozy games, farming sims, life sims, it's gonna be up your alley. And to wrap this up, God of War 2018. Another game that I really should have played by now, but it was stuck in PlayStation jail. I haven't had a PlayStation recently, and so I haven't played it yet. Then last but not least, the 2015 title from CD Projekt Red, Witcher 3: The Wild Hunt, and both of the DLCs, or I should say all of the DLCs. More on that in a second. The Witcher 3 has everything that I love in games. There's a massive world that you can explore, and the world feels lived in, and the world comes alive through the side quests. Most of them are excellent. Sure, the task that Geralt is asked to do is usually something like go over here and get this thing, or fight this monster. But there's far more to it. There's an aspect of storytelling that most games don't bother with, because very often there's a murder or other misfortune at the center of the supernatural event that you're solving, and bringing closure to the spirit is just as important as hacking the monster to bits. Also, while the supporting characters aren't necessarily quite as strong as those in Expedition 33, they are some of the best written characters in all of video games. And for me, the thing that takes The Witcher 3 from great to one of the best of all time is the two DLCs. Hearts of Stone has incredible writing. Gaunter O'Dim is an amazing villain. In fact, because you can always choose your path through the DLCs, there's even a world where Geralt ends up helping him out. Then there's Blood and Wine, where Geralt teams up with his old buddy Regis to go on one last adventure. The region of Toussaint is easily large enough to be its own game, and the entire thing's suffused with a sense of whimsy that clashes with the grimdark which you experience throughout the rest of the world. You're still going to be making hard choices, and your choices do still matter, often having a major impact on the events of a story. But at least things are a little bit more lighthearted here. And that's where I would have left it, except now, CD Projekt is adding one more DLC, Songs of the Past, which I'm very much looking forward to. So, if you want to see more of my thoughts on Witcher 3 and the new DLC, get subscribed. We don't have a release date for Songs of the Past yet, but whenever it does come out, I will definitely be covering it. And so, those are 15 games, remember, not ranked in any specific order, but you can pick up during a sale. I tried to pick things that have either aged very well, or I suspect will age very well. But now I'm curious, what are some of your favorite games that you've gotten through a sale? Especially if it's timeless, please put it down in the comments below. Also, if you want to know more about Ori and the Blind Forest, Grim Dawn, Doom, and several other titles on this list, I have some videos that I made which I'll leave up in the card and down below. Now I'm going to get going because in putting this video together, I realized I need to get back to catching up on my backlog. So that's what I'm going to do. Thank you very much for watching to the end. If you want to see my thoughts on a wide variety of games, head over to my Steam curator page. It's linked down below, and that's where I put reviews for everything. So you have all my thoughts on all the games that I play, including the ones that don't make it into videos, all in one place. With that, thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.